Good morning, my friends. Today is Monday, November 13th, 2023. I am Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading. So the last week or two has actually been kind of wild out here in the market. We had made this significant push down, and I did anticipate the pullback, but never would have anticipated how much it was going to pull back. We have had a pretty significant move to the upside, and I'm starting to expect a little bit more. We have a couple of things in the way that might keep it from doing that, but we're going to talk about it a little bit and we're going to go from there. All right. Also, if you haven't heard, our Spanish curriculum has been launched. Our new English curriculum has also been out there and it's good to go. We are releasing it in sections as we're just finishing up a few little odds and ends towards the end of the curriculum. So if you are interested in being a part of that, just reach out to us. You can also email on info@responsibledaytrading.com and we can get you some information over that. Guys, always, we love that you're here. Please like and subscribe and just spend some more time here with us. If you've got questions, if you want to reach out, we're happy to hear from you. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the news. Okay, so first things first, we always like to check out the news, see what's going on. The news doesn't really affect when we get in and out of the market, but being aware of it is huge. Okay, so we don't have anything on Monday, which is pretty typical. We do have some news on Tuesday, all pre-market, all an hour before the market opens. Wednesday, mostly pre-market, mostly an hour before the market opens. But then we have crude oil inventories an hour after the market opens. Wow, this week is pretty much all pre-market. Thursday, pre-market. Friday, pre-market. So if you're a pre-market trader, just might be best to know what's going on. Okay, so let's get this party started. We're going to start off always with our daily chart. That is this chart we see right here. Now, guys, we had this big move down. And if we look at where we've got a bit of a trend line going on here in these moves to the downside, we have exceeded that trend line. Even if we come up here to where this pivot is happening, we've really exceeded that trend line and pulled back into it. So just like we saw back in here, we've seen it exceed, pull back into it, and it looks like it is making the attempt to push to the upside. We had a hard close down, hard close up here, but here's what we've got in the way and that we may need to see overcoming. Now, we have a strong resistance area here that we have been watching over time. We did have a close up into the area, and we do have MACDs outside of the Bollinger Band, but we do have an area of resistance also in the MACDs that could cause a push down. So what we want to do is we want to pay attention. Are the MACDs going to stay outside of the Bollinger Band while we push up to this area? Are we going to start seeing them cut in and try to come back? Now, if they do cut in and try to come back, we're going to have one situation on our hands, which is we're going to see potential for divergence. Because this is pushed up so hard, if this does pull back, it's going to take a little bit of strength and work to get back down below this area of these previous pivots. Now, can it do it? Absolutely, it can do it. Is this strength right now? Now, I don't like to keep things really spread out because all of the MACDs look like strength. So it's not the strongest of the strong outside of here, but when we had this pullback happen, we didn't see any reaction in the MACDs. It didn't even get inside. So if we see these BBs start to get inside, if we see this price bar get back below this area, then we're going to have something on our hands that might tell us that we might see this push back down to the downside. But let's pay attention more to what the immediate is and what's happening in the next chart, which is our 28,657. So neither the daily chart or the 28,657 are charts that we quote unquote trade, but they do help us have an idea in what we're anticipating in the overall. So we had this move to the upside. EMAs were strong to the upside. Let me take this out of here. EMAs were very strong to the upside, and price did struggle a little bit to continue up. We saw that happening. it pulled back into that area of support, which it was resistance. Now it's turned into support. It's pulled back into that area. MACDs barely had a reaction. They just barely pulled inside. We only got 2 of the purple BBs, and then it started to push back outside. So this is a very, very strong look for a move to the upside. When it pulls back like this, the MACDs have almost no reaction in that move up. So it pulled back in, it has pushed up white BBs. So we do have white BBs, which do say we're anticipating a pullback. But we'd really like to see divergence happen before we're really even going to anticipate it to give us a strong enough move to get down, get below these EMAs, and start shifting the direction to the downside. Right now, the BB outside is showing strength. So what I mean by strength is it's pulling away from that last BB and it's pulling outside of the Bollinger Bands. But we also have 20,000 ticks on a 28,000 tick chart. So a lot can change in that time. We may even see this push up and close towards the top and this BB start to cut inside. So with those 20,000 ticks, we don't want to just assume that this is going to push down. We do want to pay attention to what our other charts are telling us to let us have a good indication of what we anticipate to happen. Also, something to think about when we have something that we call a strong trending market. Now, a strong trending market is typically signified by the strength in the EMAs, by the fact that we had divergences happen as the price was moving up and MACDs were moving down, but they continued to happen. So even though we had divergences, we broke through them and still made higher pivots. So when that happens, what we tend to see is it pull back into the area and then continue up. So that's exactly what we saw happen. So that's indications of a strong trending market. Now, we do want to see these EMAs continue to open up like they did back here, which is a very real possibility, but we're probably going to see it pull back a little bit, maybe even a little bit deeper back into this area again before it pushes up. And the reason I say that is just maybe I'm getting a little influenced by what's happening on the 233 kind of in the background. So I'm definitely being influenced by what I see happening over here. And we'll get over to that chart in just a moment. So we do see that these closes at the top. MACDs stayed outside of the Bollinger Bands, which tells us to anticipate it to pull back a little bit. I mean, we always anticipate pullbacks. They're going to happen quite often. We can't just anticipate the market to just continue in one direction. We do see pullbacks, and we're going to see strong MACDs in these pullbacks. So we have to interpret what's happening in order to determine if we're really looking for a direction to shift to the downside. Now, that doesn't say that we can't take moves to the downside. With the little bit of divergence here and the anticipations of the pushback down, we can take moves that happen to the downside while we're expecting the bigger move to happen to the upside. What I'm really thinking here is we may see something along the lines of a W pivot, or maybe even something kind of like this. Now you can see what happened here. These also looked like strength to the downside while the price continued up until it made just a little bit of a deeper pullback and then went up. So we may see something similar to that happening here. Maybe even something like a W pivot to push this back up. But I do have my expectations would be for this to pull back and then continue to the upside. So let's go ahead and check out our trading charts for today. So if we're looking here at what we've got going on between our three charts, we've got the 10,946, the 1597, and the 233. We're really going to want to take a look and say, okay, what is this saying to me right now? Well, obviously we had a big dip to the downside. That was an overnight action. While we don't ignore the overnight action, we definitely want to pay attention to it. We also don't let it take charge of our day. Now, just because this happened overnight doesn't mean it's going to continue in that direction. But let's go ahead and read what we see going on between these three trading charts. So we had price push to the upside. The MACDs got wider and wider and wider. And here we are anticipating them to move down. This was the end of the day on Friday, actually, right in here. So there were anticipations for this to at least, the very, very least, pull back, being outside of the Bollinger Bands, having those white BBs, and whew, it picked up that strength to the downside and really pushed down whenever it opened overnight. We did see the push to the upside here. MACDs did not move up with any strength, so we were going to anticipate it to continue pulling down. Now, what I was talking about with the W pivot is what we see is typically with something like a W pivot, you've got to run, retrace, 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 run. And so we're looking for something similar in the lines of that, but we're going to be watching what this MACD does. Is it going to push down further to the downside, or is it going to kind of stall out here around the EMAs? If I'm looking at my next chart, it does look like it's going to continue to the downside because it is strong and outside. Also, let's talk a little bit about direction. Just coming back to the daily chart, direction is really attempting to shift to the upside, but it has not made it there yet. This is our first bar so far that's pulled away from the EMAs. We're not only going to want to see it pull away from the EMAs, we're going to want to see the next bar close back above that. But we are above the zero line, which says direction is up, attempting to go up, and we're looking to pull away from the EMAs. So we might see direction go up there. And just coming back to the 28,657, direction is up. We're above the EMAs, we're above the zero line. There's no denying direction is up there. Direction is up here on the 10,946. Above the EMAs, above the zero line. We're going to have a lot of work to do to shift this direction to the downside. We're going to have to get back below both these EMAs, pull away from it, kind of like right in here. That didn't quite do it. We had this first one pull away here. Then we want to see a close that closes below and pulls away. So it attempted right there, but by that time it was already moving back to the upside. So we're going to need to get back below both EMAs, stay below the zero line, and pull away in order to shift the direction to the downside. But right now our direction is up. We see that we're attempting to make new highs, or we made a new high here, higher high, higher low, lower high. So is this going to push down further? Now, if it does push down further past this pivot point here, I'm going to be looking down to this lower EMA for it to make it down into there, which will still be direction to the upside. Even though it's pulling down to here, we still will see direction to the upside. Now remember, as this moves along, this EMA will move. It will not stay in the same place. It's going to shift. So we should see it pull up a little bit more because the overall is to the upside. So maybe meeting a little bit higher, maybe somewhere around, 44.05 if that does come up there. Now, this EMA may hold. The small EMA on the 10,946 may hold. We're going to watch this BB, see if it's going to push through and continue down. But right now, it's at an area to create a bounce. Looking at our 1597, direction has shifted to the downside. It did attempt to shift up here. It pulled away, but it really struggled to close above this high. It pretty much closed at that high. So direction never actually shifted back to the upside after it moved to the downside here. Now, being a smaller chart than these bigger charts, of course, we're going to see temporary shifts above and below the EMAs. All right, so as it's pulled away from the EMAs here, we can see they're still weak and not opening up too much. And we've got these BBs already starting to bunch together. So if this area holds right in here, this may be attempting to show that it's trying to hold. We have divergences already happening on the 233, and we're struggling to get back below the bottom Bollinger Band. Now, the market opens in about 45 minutes. So we have plenty of time for this to kind of mess around and to make decisions in what the overall move is going to be for today. Now, something else I do want to mention is, guys, we are coming upon Thanksgiving and Christmas, which means things are going to slow down. We're not going to see as much volume in the market. We're not going to see as many people participating, because guess what? People are going on vacation with their families and spending time with their families and taking time away from the market. While the market will continue to move, it is definitely going to be moving at a slower rate. Doesn't mean that we won't still get big pops in the market, but we're going to see it slow down and not see as much volume and activity happening in the market at that time. Okay, my friends, that is going to wrap that up. So while it is in an immediate move to the downside, I do believe that we're going to see some more up. I don't want to call that too early, because we do have a strong area of resistance that could push this market back to the downside. So paying attention to that, knowing that we have that possibility, just being aware that we haven't technically shifted the direction back to the upside on the daily chart. Can it do it? Sure. Is it going to take some work? Absolutely. Are people expecting this market to run into the ground? I mean, that's just every day. People are expecting the economy to just fall and be done with. So, we are still have plenty of movement, and we will still see movement to the upside. This market's not going to run to zero anytime soon, even though it may pull back down just a little bit more. So, all right, guys, that is going to wrap things up. I hope that everybody has a wonderful week. If you have questions, let us know. And as always, you know that I look forward to catching you on the profitable side.